too early to run for trains. I haven't had my coffee yet.
So long story short is we had to take a train from Pierce to Connolly this morning. Unfortunately, there's only 2 trains in the morning. There's either a train at 7:25 or a train at 7:39. Unfortunately, the train that leaves at 7:39 does not get to Connolly until 7:45. That gives us 5 minutes to find our other train and board it. And if there's any delay on that train, it's highly likely that we will miss our train to Belfast. With our luck trains, I decided that we should probably head to the station 25 minutes early, get on the first train at 7:25, and that just gives us more time at Connolly, which I'm sure we can find some place with coffee and croissants. Now we just need to find platform 2.
They wouldn't have given us 5 minutes. They gave us 1 minute if we had taken the second train. So
It's a good call.
it's a good call.
Yeah, if I've learned anything in our travels, is don't mess with trains. Like, if they tell you that there's only a 7-minute thing, it's not enough. Like, you need significantly more. 15 minutes should be the minimum. It's often difficult to find, what platform you need to be at, and then you actually have to make it there, which in some stations is very far.
So we made it to Northern Ireland. I made a huge mistake and I forgot my passport, and I think we're lucky enough that they're not checking. It'll be interesting to see if we can get back into Ireland, if I can get back into Ireland, but we'll find out. But yeah, we'll see what we can do today. We can enjoy our trip and then head back. But I think first is coffee and food.
So Northern Ireland is officially our 17th country that we have both been in at the same time. It's pretty exciting to start reaching some of the bigger numbers, and I can't wait until we reach something like 25, 50, or 100 countries. That's going to take a longer amount of time. Basically, we'll have to be traveling full-time probably ever to reach those, but it's fun to at least visit new countries. And today we have some interesting tours. We want to do the Titanic tour, and then we're also doing the Black Taxi tour, which is a very common, very popular tour here that kind of goes over some of the conflicts that happened in Northern Ireland and Ireland. All right, and for our first trip here in Northern Ireland, we are going to find our Black Taxi for the Black Taxi tour. And if we could find some coffee or food, that would be great.
So a couple of things to note here. We have mentioned finding coffee and breakfast multiple times already. This is because we were supposed to have coffee and breakfast in first class on the train. However, the train ended up not having a first class, so we were granted a refund, but more on that later in the video. Next, the Belfast train station was brand new, meaning it did just open that month, and it didn't have any amenities open yet, so no breakfast or coffee there. And the train was also delayed, so our tour was scheduled to start pretty much right after we made it to the station. So Ben ran across the street to grab some Starbucks for us really quickly while we tried to find our black taxi car, and so that kind of kept us from giving you some additional context there. Once in the car, however, the tour started right away with the Europa Hotel that has been bombed about 36 times and is considered the most bombed hotel in Europe. All right, back to the tour.
That's crazy.
Just to brighten up their day.
Welcome to Belfast, a place where the past looms, where the streets are lined with murals that speak of struggles, resistance, and the fragile beauty of peace. This isn't just a city, it's a story, one of pain and perseverance, division and unity, tragedy and triumph. And the best way to explore it? From the backseat of one of its iconic black taxis. This isn't your typical tour, it's unfiltered, or at least our guide was. It's real, it's personal, driven by locals who lived the history that they share. The Black Taxi Tour is less of a ride and more of a conversation, a window into the city and its people. A city where peace walls both divide and protect a population that is today still 93% segregated by religion. Belfast isn't easily understood. It's complicated, it's messy, and it's beautiful. And there's more here that we're not even able to begin to cover in this video. But it's that complexity that makes it worth knowing, and it's worth visiting if you get the opportunity.
Ta-da!
Ta-da.
Subscribe, rate, subscribe before Benjamin has ends.
It's not me, it's not my family.
So it's interesting that we're really noticing a lot of similarities between like the North Korea, South Korea tour that we did. Obviously, North Korea is quite different than South Korea, and it's a very different situation. But it is interesting because we are noticing that the propaganda and some of the words that are being used on both sides is very similar.
It's very interesting. It's a good tour.
Going into a place called the Belfast City Hall, and we're gonna go try to get some lunch at the cafe here.
I got a sausage roll and a latte. Looks delicious.
All right, so up next is the Titanic Museum.
So we just finished the Titanic Museum and exhibit, and it was okay. I think as far as museums go, it's nice. It was really, really crowded, which made it really hard to read anything. What I did read, I kind of already knew from my brief stint of like watching the movie or learning it in school. So if you're a really, really big Titanic fan, come here, for sure. But if you're not, and it's just like I could be interested in this, it might be something that you can skip and do something else in Belfast.
So much more to do in Belfast, and I think that's one of the mistakes that I've made, is that one day is not enough, and I think I'm realizing that now. I'll be honest, I kind of wish I would have skipped the Titanic Museum, because I think that there was way more interesting history that I could have done. There's also a bunch of free museums in the center part of Belfast, which if I would have known about, I think I would have done one of those instead. City Hall is free, by the way. So like if you're curious about that, and then there's the Ulster Museum, which that is also free. So either one of those are great recommendations. And our previous tour guide in the black taxi thing told us if the museum is free, then the cafe is really where they make their money. So the cafe is going to be good, which I think is a kind of like a logical way of looking at it.
Yeah.
So, but the cafe that we went to in City Hall was good. It wasn't bad, but you know, very reasonable food, and it wasn't too expensive.
I will say the ticketing here was a little bit weird. We bought our tickets on Viator, right? Or Viator.
Viator, yeah.
And then they were like, oh, well, now you need to exchange those tickets for like real
Another
tickets.
set of tickets.
And then we had to go stand in line and wait for 20 minutes. And then they were like, okay, well, here's a timestamp. You have to wait for additional time to get in. And it was like, okay, we only had an hour and a half to like do this, and now we're like down to like less than an hour after like the ticket.
We basically burned 30 minutes like standing in line and waiting for our spot. So
it was a little bit of a
it's a little frustrating if you're
Yeah.
trying to do it on a time limit, which I'll be honest is like almost something that we always run against. So that's why I think for me this is kind of like one of those like 2-star moments. It's a little bit worse than average, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I think if it's something you're really interested in, it's worth it.
Absolutely. If you really like Titanic, come here. Make sure you have time to do it. We just were on a little bit of a time crunch. So we're going to go try to check out the SS Nomadic, which is the actual ship that's here too. And then probably head back to the train station because we have a train to catch at 3 o'clock. This is the first class area. So this is the third class space. It wasn't really, this boat really wasn't meant for third class, but they did accommodate some third class where they just had some benches and like some water, and that was all they got for the entire trip.
Now, as a note, this is only the Titanic's tender, which it did a lot of like shore runs for the Titanic because the Titanic obviously could not go into shallow water.
That's wild. 2,000 soldiers on board. 2,000, that's a lot.
Ah, bonjour! Capitaine Boitard at your service. Not long now and we'll be on our way.
They did a pretty good job of replicating them.
Yeah, they did.
That was a pretty good replication job, for sure. I mean, these are a little shinier, but that's about it.
So Nomadic was a French tender, which basically took people from, I think it was Le Havre? I don't know, there's a specific place in France that this boat used to operate out of, and it basically was the standard tender that was built to take goods, people, and services from shore all the way out to the larger waiting ocean liners that could obviously not enter the harbor. Now today we have like dredges and stuff that can dig out harbors and make everything a lot deeper so that cruise ships can come like right up into the city, but in the 1900s that was very difficult and that wasn't done often, so Nomadic was used for that. All right, so we're headed back to our train back to Dublin here. It's been about 5 hours or so. So we're headed back to grab our train. I wish there was something open here in there so that we could grab something to eat because I'm a little hungry. So I know by the time I get back, I'm gonna be really hungry. But they're now running trains on an hourly basis, which is brand new. So this was supposed to be a first class journey for us, but Unfortunately, they made a recent change to the trains where they run hourly, and now some of the new trains that run hourly, they don't quite have first class carriages available. So at some point in time today, we've been told that we need to work on getting a refund for our trip because we paid for first class and didn't end up getting it. I was really hoping to show everybody like what the first class experience was, but unfortunately there's not been many like amenities on this train, which is kind of part of the reason they're telling everybody that they need to get a refund. The other interesting thing about this train trip is in a few days, basically at the end of November, they're going to start requiring electronic travel visas in order to go from Ireland to Northern Ireland if you are a foreign citizen. So basically, if you're not an Irish or British citizen, you're going to have to get a visa to cross the border. Also, our goal is to get dinner after this. I don't know if I mentioned, but we're going to try to get some maybe pub food tonight. Not 100% sure what we're going to do, but once we get back, we'll try to figure it out pretty quickly so that we can head out and get some food. Okay, so we submitted our tickets for a refund, so hopefully that will, whenever they get in contact with us, we'll get a refund. Unfortunately, I'm kind of sad because I really wanted to give everybody the first class experience, but we weren't able to do that. Now we're going to try to take a bus and go to dinner. Dublin, man. Well, that was fun. Just so you know, you do have to have a specific bus card in order to get on and off the buses here in Ireland. You can't just buy individual tickets like I thought we could. But the bus driver was really nice, and he said it's not a problem. He said you guys can ride for 2 or 3 stops. It's okay. So that's why we are now going to dinner. And that was the tour we were supposed to go on. Alright, so the pub food there was absolutely amazing. I got the shepherd's pie, and it's one of the best shepherd's pie I think I've ever had that has not been homemade. So absolutely incredible. And Kayla got the beef and Guinness stew, which it was absolutely incredible. So phenomenal place. I think that was O'Neill's? O'Neill's? I swear it said O'Neill's. There's an S. Alright, so that was O'Neill's Pub. Absolutely incredible place. If you're ever here in Dublin and you're looking for good pub food, phenomenal choice. And the other thing is we were specifically looking for a shepherd's pie place, and that place came up as one of the top recommendations, and they were of course right. Alright, hopefully you liked today's vlog. Belfast was definitely interesting for us, and it was really nice to get in another country while we were here in Ireland. I will say, I think we totally underestimated the amount of stuff that there was to do in Belfast, and to be honest, I think I want to go back just because Belfast was beyond interesting, and the amount of like cultural and like historical events that were there was just like unbelievable. So yeah, I definitely massively underestimated that, and we will definitely do that again. I also thought that about 5 hours there would be reasonable, and it most definitely was not even close to being enough. So if you're planning on going to Northern Ireland when you're going into Dublin, plan on getting up really early and plan on getting back to your hotel really late. it would have been actually nice to probably get dinner while we were in Belfast instead of coming back to Dublin for dinner. So hopefully that helps you if you're planning on making a trip like this anytime soon. Also, just to note, I did try to mention a few things on the train. The first being there is some changes coming with basically when the UK left the European Union. There's been a lot of changes in terms of like immigration and tourism and travel. So one of the things that I heard today was there is a new program going into effect, especially if you're from the United States, but for a lot of other countries from the 27th of November 2024. The train trip that we took was much easier now than it will be in the future. In the future, you will have to apply for what's called an ETA, which I think is like a travel authorization form. They ask you a bunch of questions. It's apparently fairly similar to what most travelers fill out when going to the United States. The UK is basically implementing the same exact policy, but it will be more difficult to do day trips and day tours from Dublin, especially if you are not Irish or a British citizen. So hopefully that information helps you out. If you like this video, we do appreciate thumbs up. It helps us know what type of videos you all like and what type of videos we should make more of. It also helps us know like when you like a particular filming style or storytelling style, and then we'll try to kind of do that more in the future. We really appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel. We've been trying to grow, and it would be really nice to have you as a subscriber. We will see you on the next one. Be kind, travel more.